Welcome, everybody, to Monday Night Nerd. Hope you all are doing well. Tonight, we have a very fun episode. Tonight, we are reviewing my weekend at Niagara Falls Comic Con. Yes, Niagara Falls Comic Con is in the books. 2026 has finished. Let's talk about it tonight because there's a lot to talk about because I spent the weekend volunteering with a whole bunch of amazing people. Give me one quick second here. We're about to go live on TikTok as well. All right, folks. Usually in these episodes, if you've ever watched Monday Night Nerd before, and by the way, if you're new to the show, welcome. My name's Myers Core. This is my podcast, Monday Night Nerd, where we talk about nerdy things. We talk about comics, cosplay, music, video games, and Comic-Cons, and a whole lot more. Usually with these Comic-Con reviews, we sit and talk about the day by day, and that takes up 99% of the episode because there's a lot to talk about. However, today we're going to do a little bit different because also with Niagara Falls Comic Con last week was basically announce every single video game that you've ever wanted week. So we have a lot to talk about in the news as well. So this is going to be a very, very, very info heavy and review based episode of the podcast. So I hope you're in store for a whole lot more, and thank you all for joining me on TikTok as well. Hope you're doing well. It is nice and warm out still. The weather has kind of made it to that consistent temperature, which I think we've all been waiting for here in the Ontario area. It has been up and down for the past few weeks, but right now it is nice, it is warm. Let's kick back and enjoy because I think the summer temperatures are here to stay. If you are a video game fan, folks, this is the week for you because we had a whole lot of video game announcements. We had the PlayStation State of Play. We had the Xbox Showcase. We had Games That Make Us, I believe it is, and a whole bunch more. And that is all we're going to be talking about today on the first segment of the show, and that is Monday Night News.
Live from the multiverse, it's Monday Night News!
All right, folks, get ready. We got a bunch of video games to talk about. First off, let's talk about the one that has sort of captured the world by storm. If you're a Marvel fan, if you're a Spider-Man fan specifically, the developers of that game from a few years ago are now in the works of making Wolverine. And we got the first real glimpse and the first background on the Wolverine video game that is coming out for the PlayStation 5. And it looks amazing. If you were a fan of the Spider-Man game, you're going to be a fan of this Wolverine game. The trailer and the gameplay shows a lot of brutality, a lot of blood and gore flying everywhere with some cameos of some other characters from the Wolverine world, including Sabretooth, including Deadpool, including Jean Grey, and a whole lot more. I feel this game is going to play very similar to the Wolverine game that came out for the PS2, which I absolutely loved. It was very much a hack and slash game. The developers were very, very, very sure to say when everyone got hyped for this trailer that this is not similar to the Spider-Man game in the fact that Spider-Man is open world. This will be a very linear game, a very straightforward game. So do not expect Wolverine to just run around wherever he wants. There is a linear path that you will be facing, and you will be facing enemies in waves. I don't care. I think this is going to be a lot of fun. I can't wait for it to come out later in the week. In chat, we have Justin Smith. I usually go to NFCC every year on Friday, but they dropped the ball this year on guests on Friday. That is something we're definitely going to be talking about. Did you visit NFCC this year? I did visit. I volunteered. In fact, I was one of the leads of the volunteer team on the autograph in the autograph area. So we're going to be talking a lot about that over the next little while. Justin Smith said Resident Evil Code Veronica remake official announcement was nice to finally see. As a diehard Resident Evil fan, I got a lot to say about that trailer. As well by the way, this is the State of Play we're going to start out with. This is all the PlayStation games. We also have Rayman Legends Retold. I am not a big Rayman fan, but I did like Rayman Legends, and now we are getting a retold version, which looks like it is an update of the Rayman Legends game from the PS4 era. A lot of fun, had a blast playing that. If you know anything about that game, there are specifically music levels, which I got an absolute kick of, before it became the big thing of that game. I remember messaging and talking to people who are gamers, and they did not know what I was talking about. But I think now, if you've ever played Rayman, you know these the Black Betty level of that game and how fun it is, and a few other ones. It looks like they're remaking those and adding new ones, which makes me very excited. The graphics look great. The levels look amazing. I'm really excited to hop back in and play that again. Boomster Joe is in the chat. Here we go. Good evening, all. Good evening to you, sir. We also have Tomb Raider Legacy of Atlantis, which looks like it is a remake of the original Tomb Raider game. Now, usually I'm hit and miss with a lot of these remakes. I think some of them are needed, some of them aren't. This one is very much needed. I have played the Tomb Raider 1 game for the first time ever. Back in the day, I was an N64 kid. I did not have a PlayStation. I got into the Tomb Raider series around the PS3 era with all of those games and had an absolute blast with Lara Croft. So getting a new updated version with updated controls is a blessing, because I went in and played that new Tomb Raider game, and the controls are an absolute nightmare, until I realized that this was a game made with a D-pad, not a double analog stick like 99% of games are today. So seeing a new version of it with new modern controls is so exciting for me, and I can't wait to jump back into the Lara Croft world. What do we have? The reason I'm asking, because one of my culinary team hang on, let me try that again. The reason I'm asking, because I'm one of the culinary team during the event, so wanted to know your feedback on food and drink options we had to offer. I really didn't get to eat or drink a lot. I did have the chicken sandwich, which was actually pretty darn good chicken sandwich. I know the volunteers got a lot of pizza, and I didn't hear any complaints about the pizza. I saw a lot of people enjoying they had a potato thing that a lot of people liked. So I didn't hear a lot of complaints about the food. It was edible, and when you're running around a convention for 12 hours on a Saturday, any food is good food at that point. But no, if you're one of that team, you did a good job. I got really nothing bad to say about it. Next in the state of play, Onimusha Way of the Sword. I have not played many of the Onimusha games, but the first one I was a big fan of. I really enjoyed that, and seeing the new one with a whole bunch of new features that I have no idea what it is got me excited, and may actually get me to go back and play Onimusha 2 and 3, because they are now available on the PlayStation Network, as well as a remaster of the first game. So might be jumping into a new Onimusha series that I'm very excited about. Also, coming back out of the dust of the PS2 era, we have a new Stuntman game. If you've never played Stuntman, and I think there was 3 Stuntmen back in the PS2 era, it was a driving game where you had to drive through a particular course. You were a stuntman. There was also a free roam monster truck thing that I liked playing. This looks like they've taken it to the next level, where the Stuntman series is back, but they've also incorporated actual licensed movies. So in the trailer, you saw a 10-second car from Fast and the Furious. You saw Kit from the David Hasselhoff series. You saw the Back to the Future DeLorean, and it looks like you're going to be playing with those and a few other movie cars as well, which makes me very interested to see what they're going to be doing with that. Also, they announced Until Dawn 2. If you're a fan of the Until Dawn series and that type of movie video game where you're going to be having to make a split-second decision on what you're going to do, this looks like it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm a big fan of the first game. I know there is another game similar to that called The Quarry, and a few other ones out there. I kind of have all of them on my PS5 that I've not been able to play, but I do want to sit down and play through those, because I really enjoyed Until Dawn, especially watching the amazing actors that are in it. That I don't know how well they were known, but what's his name, who played Freddie Mercury in Bohemian Rhapsody, he was the lead in that game and does an incredible job. So this is one that is definitely going to be on my watch list to see what people think of this game. Alex, I heard the subs were good, but I never got any. Thank you so much, Mike. We will be ready again with more exciting menus next year. I appreciate your work. Keep it up. Last but not least for the state of play, we had the new God of War announced and showcased. This is God of War Luffy, I believe the title is called. This is going to be following the story of Kratos' wife after she has been cremated at the beginning of the first God of War in 2018. You now follow her into what is, I would call, the afterlife, where she is encountering other gods of war. You will be following her as well as some companions she meets along the way. It is still going to be the same style combat, it looks like. Looks like it might be a little more hack and slash, kind of leaning more towards the original God of War games, which I'm super excited about because I love those games. I like the new ones, but I love the old school ones. When it comes to a lot of the feedback I've witnessed online, a lot of people are saying all God of War games should be focused on Kratos, and going to his wife as a main character, they weren't big fans of. Personally, as long as they make the game fun, I think they're going to do a lot of cool things. The developers did say that this is not an offshoot of the game. This is going to be running parallel with the 2018 game, which means that events that happen in the original God of War game will have some effect in the Luffy game, which makes me very interested because they did kind of mention, but kind of not, that sometimes when other people have passed on, they will end up in that world as well, which means if that's the case and the gods that they are showing in this game are Egyptian and others, you might get to interact with a whole bunch of other gods that Kratos has laid waste to over the years, which means we could be going back all the way back to Ares in the first God of War. We could have Zeus, we could have Hades, and all those guys as well. So fingers crossed, because that looks like it's a lot of fun. Then, if that wasn't enough, we had, I believe, the Games That Made Us, or the game, whatever, I can't remember what the middle one was, but they had a sort of overarching, if you're not a specific PlayStation or an Xbox game, this was kind of an overarching trailer, or overarching announcement day. This one specifically, they talked about a new Hot Wheels game called Infinite Rush, which looks like it's almost a Hot Wheels meets Horizon, which I'm super excited about because I played a lot of Hot Wheels games back in the day, and they seemed very childlike. And I know that it's a toy, so they should be childlike, but I feel like in today's day and age, we have so much nostalgia in our lives that you could definitely take a toy like Hot Wheels that we all played with and make more of a modern adult version of it, especially with games like Rocket League and stuff have shown us that fun toy element can work very well in the real world and make a fun version of it. And that's what this looks like. It looks like this is 4 to 5 islands that are very much looking like a city, but then randomly there are Hot Wheels orange tracks all over the place that will have you doing loops and doing jumps and stuff. So I'm very interested to see what this is going to be. It actually, another analogy would be, this is almost like Hot Wheels meets Burnout without the crashing. Or maybe there will be crashing. I don't know. But I'm excited to see what they're going to do. They also announced DLC and expansion for Mafia Old Country. I am a huge Mafia fan. I loved 1, 2, and 3. Old Country is the newest one. Came out, I believe, last year, the year before. I have to play it. I'm waiting for it to drop a little bit. But I'm very excited to see where they're going to go with this one as well. We also had new Cuphead games announced. There's going to be a Cuphead 2 and a completely different game. It almost looked like it was a retro-style Cuphead game based off old NES games, which looked incredible. The graphics are almost picture perfect. They did like a mock commercial for it, which looked amazing. It looked like an old Mario commercial. I personally loved the art style of Cuphead. If you've ever watched my podcast before and I've talked about video games, I'm not a big fan of the incredibly hard games. I'm not a Dark Souls fan or anything like that, and Cuphead to some people becomes like a Dark Souls where you're just making mistake and dying and dying and dying. But I do actually want to give Cuphead a chance. I do want to actually give it a try. So this new version of Cuphead, Cuphead 2, looks like it might be a pretty good entry point for me to jump into the franchise. Another game that I have started at least twice and I really need to jump in and actually go with is Alien Isolation, and now we are going to get Alien Isolation 2. I am a huge fan of the Alien franchise. As you may have noticed on my social media platforms lately, I'm currently building a new pulse rifle because maybe I'll be doing a maybe I'll be doing an Alien cosplay. I don't know, but I've always wanted my own pulse rifle. So getting into that franchise has always been fun, and I think I need to really give Alien Isolation a shot now because Alien Isolation 2 looks like it's right around the corner. Alex said, I got a new Optimus Prime toy. Interesting. He also said Mafia was a great game. Yeah, I loved the first one. I actually jumped in on 2, and then I went back and played 1, and then I heard a lot of people hating on 3, but I actually enjoyed 3. I think it is a different game if you loved that first 2 and then you went into 3. It is a departure, but I still enjoyed it just as much. I loved working with them this weekend. And then last but not least, if you're a Resident Evil fan, you really enjoyed this announcement. Resident Evil Veronica is announced, which means we get Resident Evil Code Veronica remade in high definition, redone, similar to what they've done with Resident Evil 2, 3, and 4. I am very excited for this one. Resident Evil Code Veronica was one that I received when I first got my PS2 bundle. I shouldn't say very young, but I was younger at the time when that console came out. And my mom was trying to figure out, what system I was going to go with. At that point, I was an N64 fan, and that's what I grew up with, was all N64 and Nintendo. But then I'd heard rumblings of what this PlayStation thing was, and I had a friend at the time who had a PlayStation 1 while I had my N64, and I'd go over and play it and absolutely was blown away by the graphics. And then when the PS2 was announced, my mind just popped with how cool this thing looked, but it was really pricey and wasn't sure about gaming. My buddy ended up wanting to get an Xbox, so he said, I will give you a very good deal, and I will give you my console and the 10 games I have for a very good price. Then that will help him buy an Xbox. And I told my mom said yes, and we jumped on it, and I was just... it changed my life. After that console, I've never looked back. I've never looked at making Xbox my main console. I've never made or Nintendo my main console. I've always been a PlayStation fanboy because one of the games that was in that 10-pack was Resident Evil Code Veronica. However, I did not totally finish it. I remember playing about a quarter to a half of it, and then I was such a big Resident Evil 2 fan, it didn't feel like 2, so I didn't want to finish it. Looking back, that was stupid. So getting a new modern take on that game has got me super hyped. That trailer looks so fun. I am interested to see who is going to be voicing Claire, because back in the day, you may know that the voice actress for Claire Redfield was Allison Court, who coincidentally was at Niagara Falls Comic Con when they announced the trailer and they showed it off. However, she had already left the building at that point. My friend Edith, who we've talked about on the podcast before, we were actually in her car at a restaurant talking about this, and we were literally just talking to her not a half hour to 45 minutes ago, and we had no idea this was happening. And I wish we could have met up with her again and been like, are you Claire? Because in all of these remakes, they've changed the voice actress to someone else. So I don't know if they're going to bring her back. She didn't mention anything about Claire, but it does have me interested to see what they're going to do with that. Who do we have? Boomster Joe says pulse rifle. Agreed. Justin Smith. Now Capcom just needs to work on remaking Resident Evil Outbreak. I actually saw Resident Evil Outbreak for a very good price at Niagara Falls Comic Con, and I was very close to buying it. But again, I've got almost everything on PS4 and PS5 Resident Evil except for a few digitals. I know if I get the PS2, it will just sit on my shelf. I probably won't actually play it, so I'm going to wait and see what they do with that, because I do think they will do a Resident Evil Outbreak and Outbreak 2 remake. I know it's not the most loved game in the franchise, but I think once we get to a certain point, they're going to have to start remaking some of those, and I'm very interested to see what they're going to do. Alex said she is super cool and friendly. Yes, Allison Court is very, very friendly. I told everybody that when I mentioned she was going to be at Niagara Falls Comic Con, especially because she was going to be in costume as Lunette, I said, you really need to meet her because she's super sweet. You'll have the time of your life with her. Last but not least, we have the Xbox Showcase yesterday. I believe it was Sunday. And wow, I am not an Xbox fan. I shouldn't say I'm not an Xbox fan. I'm just way more PlayStation than I am Xbox. I've always had respect for Xbox. I think what they've done and some of the games they've done have been absolutely incredible. There are definitely some jealousies when it comes to the Rare catalog that they had Conkers and Banjo-Kazooie and Perfect Dark and all that for the Xbox 360s. They have also had Halo and Gears of War and stuff like that. But man, what they announced and what the CEO has done over the past few months, I'm applauding them as a PlayStation fanboy. Good job. You guys are knocking it out of the park, and you deserve all the love you're getting over the past few days. Xbox Showcase, we had a brand new Gears of War E-Day announced, which makes me super, super happy that they're bringing that franchise back, especially because the original Gears of War has been remastered, and they've now put it on the PlayStation, which means I finally get a chance to play Gears of War, because I've seen so many highlights, so many amazing videos of that game, and now I can actually play it on my PlayStation. They also talked about Halo Campaign Evolved, which I'm, again, super happy about that they're remaking and remastering that game. Again, that one will be on PlayStation as well. That's been announced already. So I will finally get to play Halo Campaign Evolved and actually enjoy the whole thing. My friend that I talked about before, I went to his place and we would hang out every once in a while. And every time we'd hang out, I would play Halo with him a bit. And that's how I slowly beat that campaign. And I absolutely loved it, but it wasn't enough for me to buy an Xbox. Another one that is catching everyone's attention and has actually caught my attention, a franchise that I've never had any interest in, but the trailers and all of the stuff they've shown for Fable has got me very interested. I wasn't a fan of I don't know how similar the Fable universe and gameplay is to Baldur's Gate, but this seems like a very more simple, very more, choose your own adventure type game, and I'm very interested to see what they're going to do with this one. I hope it is not overly complicated, because that is a problem I did have with the Baldur's Gate franchise, and the last game was, it just seemed like there was 10 billion things I needed to remember and figure out, and it just took too much time for me to remember, and that kind of pulled me away from it. But this looks like it's a very simple, very fun game, and we'll have to see what's coming up. But the first couple trailers have got me excited. Spyro is coming back as well. The Little Purple Dragon is coming back. They did the remaster I'd say about 5-10 years ago, which I have downstairs. Again, never had a PlayStation, but loved those Spyro games when they remastered them. And now we got a brand new one. We got a brand new Spyro game, and I wonder if they're going to bring little cameos in this new game of the Skylanders world, because the Skylanders world was actually started as a Spyro franchise, and it kind of just bloomed into its own universe. So wouldn't be surprised if in this game you see little Easter eggs of some of the big Skylanders characters as well. Alex, MS has given up on Xbox. I don't know if it's given up on Xbox. The way this new CEO's doing, I think they're doing a pretty good job. If you didn't see the trailer, if you didn't see any of the video, I guess she came out, and whoever was in the audience that had a special badge, I don't know how many they are, I don't know if this was the whole crowd or what, but she is giving away a whole bunch of the new clear green Xboxes that they announced at the show. They're just giving them away to all of these people because they appreciate them being gamers, and I don't remember the last time a gaming franchise did that. So that is giving them a lot of good graces in the gaming community. And last but not least, another game along with Code Veronica that I received in that bundle from my buddy back in the day on the PS2. We have a new Crazy Taxi. I absolutely loved that game in the arcades. I loved it on the PS2. I played it all the time. I've actually debated on figuring out if I could do a cosplay of Crazy Taxi and just have like a body of the car and just be a giant torso above it. Either way, they've announced a new Crazy Taxi. It is called World Tour. This looks like it is going to be I don't know if they said it was a rival group that is sort of, I don't know if it's an Uber type organization that's trying to steal your rides or something from all over the world, but they basically said you're going to be going all over the world doing Crazy Taxi missions and getting people to their destination. And based off the trailer, it looks like we're getting the Offspring song again, which I don't think you could do a Crazy Taxi game at this point without having that Offspring song. So that is another one that has just got such a deep deep part of my heart of playing that back in the arcade when I was a kid. Overall, if you're a gamer, man, you've got a whole bunch of good stuff coming ahead of you. The funny part that a lot of people are joking about with all these announcements, it looks like anything that is coming out in 2026 has got a September release date. So I think they said there's about 5, 6, 7 AAA games all coming out in September 2027. And that is because in October, Grand Theft Auto 6 is coming out, and they don't want to compete with that. They want to get in there first, get as many of their teeth into that audience as they can before that GTA comes out, because they know as soon as that GTA 6 comes out, you're losing so much of the gaming universe into that game. So, which, I'll say it here. I loved the GTA franchise. I've played it since GTA 3. I remember getting that game, renting it, and absolutely falling in love with it. I have every single GTA since then. I've got every strategy guide for GTA since then. However, the amount of time that they've taken to develop this new GTA, I know the reason, and that is because they're making so much money off the online. I do worry that we are going to have a Guns N' Roses Chinese democracy issue, and that is this has taken so long that we have hyped this game so much and built it up so big in our heads that they cannot deliver the game when it actually comes out, and that we will be disappointed. I hope it doesn't happen. I hope they do as well as they do, but with the gaming world being so online and the GTA 6 online feature being such an important part, I do worry that the core game is going to be not as much as we had hoped, and that the online is going to have so many people jump on when it first launches that it's not going to work properly, and then you're going to have weeks of horrible matchmaking and horrible getting into lobbies. And I hope that the Rockstar crew has built up enough credibility with the gaming community that they will survive that. But the gaming community is also very particular that if you drop a game, you better have all the bugs worked out and all the kinks in the armor shined up and ready to go. So we'll see, but I am getting a lot of Chinese democracy feels that we are just building this up and getting ready so much that we are going to be very disappointed. Hope not, but you never know. I was disappointed not to see a Hellraiser game release. Agreed. I was surprised they didn't talk about that. The only other thing that they meant, I don't know what showcase they mentioned this. It wasn't PlayStation or Xbox for sure, but they did show a clip of the new Halloween game that's coming out. If you've played the Friday the 13th game, if you've played Dead by Dawn or anything like that, there is a new Halloween Michael Myers type game like that. It looks like it is going to be single player as well as multiplayer. So they showed off a little bit of the single player part of the game, and it does look like you are controlling Michael. You are basically recreating the first movie. You are breaking out of Hadfield Sanitarium. You are going on a killing spree, finding the mask, finding your knife, and going nuts. I am so glad they're finally doing a single player experience for this type of game. I absolutely loved the Friday the 13th game. I loved the Texas Chainsaw game. I loved the Dead by Daylight franchise. However, I'm not a multiplayer gamer. I've run into too much negativity playing those games, especially when they're team-based. Like, you've got the one person going after the group. If the one member of the group doesn't play the way that the rest want, then that becomes super toxic. I just stay away from that type of gaming. So knowing that there's going to be a first-person part with the character that has my name makes me very happy that I'll actually be able to jump into this and not have to deal with any of that stuff and still have something to play. That is it, folks. We had, like I said, we got a whole bunch of trailers. We got a whole bunch of information coming up in 2026, 2027. We have a ton of games to be excited for. And as a gamer, it was a great week to hear all these announcements. If you guys are still here, I greatly appreciate you spending some of your Monday night with me. If you can hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. And if you're here on TikTok, you can hit that follow button. We are here every single Monday night talking about nerdy things. Shall we talk about the sponsor? I think it's time we talk about the sponsor, folks. The sponsor every single week. We know this sponsor because she is the most important sponsor, and that is my beautiful, loving, amazing, incredible wife. I wouldn't be here without her. I would not be doing this without her. She has given me a life that I'm super excited about, super happy about, super love her to the ends of the earth. I would not be the person I am without her. And I say that every single week, and that is not to suck up. That is the absolute truth. I just love my wife, and she makes me a better person. So, hun, I love you. You will always be the main sponsor here on the show, Monday Night Nerd. All right. With that in mind, what do we have? We got Alex saying, I hate PvP group games as after the first month you can't find groups. That is another problem of PvP games. You definitely need that fan base to keep going, like a GTA 5, or you run into the problem of running into matchmaking where nothing happens. It's the fun of the gaming industry. All right, I think, folks, it is time for our main event.
It's time for the main event.
Folks, Niagara Falls Comic Con 2026 is in the books, in the pocket, out of sight. Let's talk about Niagara Falls Comic Con. Now, let me give you a little bit of background because context is king in today's world. I am a volunteer. I have been volunteering at Niagara Falls Comic Con for a decade. I started back over a decade ago at Hamilton Comic Con 2016. So coming up this year, Hamilton 2016 will be my 11th anniversary of doing that convention. I have been volunteering like mad since the pandemic. Specifically, in the past 3 years, I have volunteered at 14 conventions. That is including Niagara Falls Comic Con, Frightmare in the Falls, Anime North, and a bunch more. My job over the past many years has been working with the celebrities, working the celebrity lines. What that involves is when you go up to meet a celebrity, there is usually a volunteer there, and they are helping make sure that you have your money and etc. And they are inviting you up almost to meet the celebrity. That has been my role over many, many years. And over the past year, I have been promoted, and my promotion is now lead of that group. I am the one of a couple this weekend who are in charge of all of the volunteers in autograph area. And that was at Niagara Falls Comic Con, and in the future that will be Hamilton Comic Con, Frightmare, Nickel City, and etc. This is also the same when it comes to who runs this convention. This is Niagara Falls Comic Con. These are the same people that run Hamilton Comic Con. They also run Frightmare in the Falls and Nickel City Comic Con in Buffalo, New York. Like I said, this has been a con that I've been doing for many, many years, and this con has been growing. It has been growing over and over and over again. Every single year, these guys seem to top themselves when it comes to the amount of guests and the quality of guests that they are getting. Usually with this type of convention, we talk about the day by day. We talk about what I do on Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I'm going to do my best to talk about that. I am going to be talking a little bit of behind the scenes, what I got to experience, etc. Usually before this promotion, it was a lot easier to do that because I was in basically one or two spaces taking care of 1 to 2 or 3 lines. And I was able to kind of, I don't want to say take my time, but this with the promotion, it was a lot of running around. It was a lot of being on my feet. Not that it wasn't on my feet before, but it was a lot of running around and a lot of chaos. So I'm not able to go into a whole bunch of detail, not because I don't want to, because I'm more than happy to tell you exactly what happened. It's just a lot of it was running all over the place from one room to the other. Alex did an amazing job as always. Thanks, buddy. Appreciate it. Boobster Joe, grats on the promotion. Thank you very much. It's appreciated. Justin Smith, I'm not a big fan of Chris and James who run FCC Frightmare in the Falls from my interactions with them. Fair enough. You're allowed to have that opinion. Noah, my boy, how the hell are you? I'm doing good, and I hope you're doing good as well. All right, let's kick things off Friday. As someone mentioned earlier in the chat, yes, Friday was a slower day. Usually we get an okay amount of guests on the Friday, but we all know if you've ever been to a Comic Con, Saturday and usually Sunday are the big days, and this was a somewhat slow Friday. Yeah, I have to agree, there was not many celebrities that were booked for that day, and that is not something that Niagara Falls Comic Con usually can, they don't have control over that. They are there to make money, and that means if that celebrity's not there, that celebrity's not signing autographs and taking photo ops. So they want them there as long as they can be there, because money then keeps coming in. If they're not there, no money's being made. But there was a few celebrities, and we actually did end up getting more guests. We actually had a few guests show up later in the day on Friday that we weren't actually planning on having. So it did make things a little easier to have a few extras flow in the end, because it was a surprise to the people that were going to be there that they could get their stuff done then and not have to wait until the craziness that was the Saturday. Overall, it was, like I said, it was a slow day. It was a lot of kind of figuring out people's strengths, weaknesses, who was good with what, who we'd worked with before. A lot of my role during that time was kind of figuring out who the volunteers are. There were some that had worked before, so I kind of knew, what had they done before? Were there any problems or anything like that that I need to address before we go any further? There was a bunch of new people, a bunch of new volunteers, and a lot of them did an incredible job, especially for their first Comic-Con. Finding out about them, kind of having a little bit of talk with them, kind of getting their mindset. There were some that were very excited and enthusiastic to be there. There were some that were a little laid back, and that's not a negative. Sometimes if you have someone that is super into it and super excited to be there, that sometimes becomes a fanboy, fangirl type thing where they kind of just see a celebrity and kind of go a certain way. And then there's some that are a little relaxed, and that could be a positive because that means that's not going to happen, but that also could mean they're too lax and they don't want to not push an authority but kind of give direction, and that role requires it. So you really have to get a feel for each type of person and what their strengths and weaknesses are, because some need a little bit of help from other volunteers and some I can just let go on their own and turn my back and know that everything's being taken care of. Did a little bit of shopping later in the day when things kind of got really, really slow. I did pick up, I should have brought it. It was a little standee, cardboard standee that there's a booth that's at all the Comic Cons in the area. I've seen them all the time. I found one for my wife, who does a hexadecimal cosplay. I got that for her. I got myself Gambit, and the Gambit one I really liked because it is a double-sided. One is the regular Gambit, and the other one is the Apocalypse version, and I really dig that look. It's the black coat with the red eyes. And then I also picked up a one for my friend Edith, who we talked about, who was at the Comic-Con as well, and it was the lead singer of NSP, who we've talked about here on the podcast. I'm a really big fan of that band, and so is she. And like I said, there wasn't a lot to talk about on Friday because it was a lot of private conversations and talking about things. The layout. Let's talk about the layout of the Comic-Con. If you were at Niagara Falls Comic Con last year, you know there was the big main room, and then you had a room off to the corner, and that was where the autographs were. That has been changed. That is now the photo op area, and they put the autograph celebrities around the top like the old way they used to do it. I heard mixed things about the way this layout is. I've heard people say that they liked having all of it in the area. I heard some people say that they had heard from, again, this is hearsay, I had heard some people say that vendors were saying that they liked that because it was a lot of foot traffic. I heard vendors that were there that were right next to the celebrities did not like that because some of the lines were getting kind of close to their booths, and that makes a bottleneck. It was a very mixed reaction. Like I said, I think personally I liked that room because it was kind of off on its own. It was quiet. It was kind of a destination to go to. The problem with that room, though, was the lighting was terrible. It was kind of muggy. That was where they had photo ops, and I can tell you right now, if I ever had to go to that photo op room, the temperature and moisture in the air went up big time. So while the concept may be good for people, I understand, but once you get into the nitty gritty of if that's the room you should be using, I don't know. So I don't know all the details of why that wasn't done this year. I don't know what the reaction was, what they got feedback, but personally, I'm kind of split. Like I said, I like the idea of that room, but when I went through there, it was very warm, very damp, very muggy, and the lighting's horrible in that room. So 50-50 on that one. Alex said I liked having the second room. Justin Smith said I liked the autograph room last year. Yeah, again, I liked having that off on its own. I did hear some people last year complain that they didn't understand that you could go in there. It wasn't properly signed, that's where the autographs were and everyone was allowed in there. I do personally remember hearing at least one person say it felt kind of like it was sort of an exclusive area they weren't allowed to go to. You know, I don't know. But personally, I'm kind of 50-50 on it. I like having everything in one spot, but I also understand that is kind of nice having that off on its own. Where we were staying, myself, my friend Edith, as we talked about, another two friends of ours, Wes and Laura, we were able to get an Airbnb not too far from there. We had stayed in an Airbnb literally across the street with a whole bunch of people last year, and there was less of us, so we had to change. The Airbnb was actually not too bad. It was a 2-bedroom. Edith and I have slept in the same bed for multiple times, for multiple conventions. Her husband's cool with it. My wife's cool with it. She is just a friend. Everyone's cool with it. The Airbnb was not too bad. Really, we didn't need much because we were going to be at the Comic Con all the time. We didn't need a whole ton of, amenities or anything, just a place to lay our heads. I will admit, I don't think I've ever slept on a pillow thinner in my life. We walked in there and it was after the Friday, we dropped all of our bags and I laid on the bed and literally my head, the pillow was squished to about this small. So, that was... I personally am a little bit of a picky person when it comes to my sleep. I grew up having perfect quiet sleeping with the perfect bed, the perfect everything. So I had to make some adjustments this weekend. It wasn't the end of the world, but I like my sleep. It is part of my DNA. Even though these bags under my eyes say otherwise, I've always had them. Even if I sleep a million hours, I still got them. All right, that was Friday. Now we have Saturday. Saturday of any Comic-Con, whether it's Niagara Falls, whether it's Fan Expo, whether it is the local Comic-Con at a rec center, Saturday is the busy day. And this was no exception. This was a crazy Saturday. This was possibly, for that event and that size, not including Fan Expo or something, which is its own gorilla that's way bigger, this was probably the busiest I've ever seen this con. And it was kind of nutty. And it didn't get out of control, but we got a little crazy. So we had Dennis Rodman that day. We had the Big Show from WWE. We had Diamond Dallas Page. We had David Arquette. We had Priscilla Presley, and all these celebrities all at the same time. And it was crazy. And again, this was the day where I was running around kind of with my hair on fire, which I don't like. But there just wasn't a lot of options besides running around with your hair on fire. I will be completely transparent. I will be honest. There was one moment in the day when I was helping with one of the lines, and I got an absolute earful from one of the attendees who was waiting in line. And he had a gripe. He had a valid gripe. But I do want to give a little bit of context of what his problem was and a little bit of detail for you guys and anyone watching what the background on our side is compared to what his problem is. Justin Smith, I'm guessing David Arquette's line was crazy. Yes, David Arquette was crazy. Dennis Rodman was crazy. Big Show was crazy. DDP was crazy. And Priscilla Presley wasn't too bad, but she was crazy too. So let's talk about his problem. So the big problem that I got an earful about was the volunteer experience. And basically there was not enough volunteers. There wasn't enough people there to run the show, is basically his gripe. And I needed to do more because as someone representing the convention and someone who's being paid for this weekend, I should be, running around with my hair on fire more, I guess. Let me give you a little bit of context about the volunteer experience so you guys know more about us and what we have to do and some of the background so you guys have a clear understanding. We are not paid at all. I have not been paid in 10 years of doing this. I'm not paid. None of the other volunteers are paid. We don't get paid. I can't say it 1,000 more times. Don't get paid. Saturday, we arrived at 8:30 in the morning. We pretty much left at 8:30 at night. That was a 12-hour day of basically being on my feet. I was not the only one that was on my feet for 12 hours. A good amount of the volunteers that got there that morning were there all day. So that is a 12-hour day of unpaid labor. Now, you're probably saying they should pay you. It's a volunteer role. You know you're not getting paid when you show up. Plain and simple. You get 2 meals. You get a lunch and you get a dinner when you get a chance, because it's not like at 12 o'clock everything shuts down and we go eat. There were definitely some volunteers that got there at 8:30 and did not get their first meal till 3 o'clock. And that was because the line that they were working just didn't stop. And they were so busy that I did not have enough volunteers to relieve them to go let them eat. And they said they were fine to wait. If you are to volunteer at one of these cons, specifically, Niagara Falls Comic Con, you get a free ticket in, you get a t-shirt, and that t-shirt can possibly get signed by the celebrities on Sunday. I say can possibly because the celebrity has the choice of not wanting to sign your t-shirt. Most of them do, but sometimes they don't. These guys and girls worked their absolute butts off this weekend. As I said, there were some that were complete rookies to this, and this was their first Saturday at a convention volunteering, and they killed it. I tried to explain this to the person who was having the problem, and they understood my side of it, but they were still frustrated, and that's part of the job, is to get them to understand both sides of it. I will admit I'm very good at that, and it is one part that I will pat myself on the back. I'm very good at seeing both sides of the argument, and this person was very frustrated there was not enough organization. I don't think I'm breaking any confidentiality. Not that I signed anything, but I don't think I'm breaking any confidentiality in this. When they make the volunteer shirts, they make enough for the volunteers that are signed up. So they don't make 10 extra. They don't make 10. They make enough for all of the volunteers. Each get one. Sunday, when we got to the room, oh, by the way, if you had to work a Saturday to work the Sunday or Friday, or Sunday or Friday. You couldn't just work a Friday, you couldn't just work a Sunday. If you work, when we got there on Sunday morning, there had to be at least 25 shirts still sitting on the table that were unclaimed, which means 25 people that had said they were going to show up bailed at the last minute, or bailed since the t-shirts were ordered, which I don't know when they ordered them. So we can only plan for the amount that we have on a sheet. And if those people start dropping out for whatever reason, some probably are legit, family, sickness, etc., and some just change their mind, we can't do anything about that. And that's basically what I explained to them. I said, look, I can tell you right now, even before Sunday, there was a whole bunch of unclaimed shirts. We plan to have X number of volunteers. If they don't show, my hands are tied at that point. We can't do anything about that. I can just do the best I can. And when you also have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, over 6 or 7 big celebrities that need multiple people on the line to make sure all of you guys are happy, I don't know what to do. That's 12 volunteers right there at least. So he understood after we had our conversation, which was nice. But yeah, Saturday was crazy. That was a lot of people, just a lot. And by the end of the day, we were all very, very tired. And I said this to the volunteer team Sunday morning, and I know some of them were not there. We're not there on the Sunday morning. And if you're watching now, I will tell you this. If you work the Friday, if you work the Saturday, if you work the Sunday, thank you so much for what you did, because as I said to them on Sunday morning, I have worked conventions where people just leave, where it's too much and they just walk out. And they're just like, nope, I'm done, without telling anyone, and just walk. And then we don't know where you are. We don't know if you're safe or anything like that. And that adds a whole bunch of new problems. So thank you for anyone that volunteered this weekend, because it could have been so bad if you guys weren't there. So thank you. Justin Smith, hang on, chat is just kind of going crazy. Justin Smith, I think volunteers should at least get a free autograph and free parking for working all weekend. Well, they do get free autographs. So at the end of Sunday, and we'll talk about this, we'll talk about it now. Sunday, we do have a program that I personally have been for the past 5-6 years. We have little stickers or a little piece of paper with a t-shirt on it. And I personally go up to each of the celebrities and I say, hey, if you're willing to, if you put this little card up on your banner, that allows and lets the volunteers know that they can come up and you are willing to sign their shirts. And then that's their keepsake for when they go home. So yes, they do get things signed. They just do not get the 8x10s. They get their shirts covered in signatures, which a lot of volunteers are very, very happy with. Free parking, that's not really that's not really the Comic Con. That's the building. And I'm not going to get into details of that, but from what I've heard, they've tried to negotiate with the building about, well, if someone shows that they're a volunteer, they get free parking, and the building, from what I've heard, has said no. So it would be easy to say then change buildings. I just don't think that's as easy as they say. Or it's as easy as you think. I'm just saying, we'll change buildings. I don't know any other building in that area that would fit that Comic-Con, so I agree with both of those. They do get the autographs, and the parking would be a lot better. Because I'll be honest, Friday, I parked my car at the Airbnb. I told them I was going to park there early, and I walked down to the Comic-Con. Thankfully, the other people I was staying with drove me back. But hang on, we got more chat in here. Justin Smith, Sunday Paige's line was huge, I heard. Yes, it was. Well, that was because Paige was only there on Sunday. That's why. And we'll get into that in a second. Sunday seemed quiet. Yeah, Sunday seemed very quiet. Sunday was quiet. Sunday was quiet compared to Saturday. And yeah, Paige was kind of crazy on Sunday. Yeah, 60 for parking is insane, says Alex. Yeah, $20 a day does add up. Pretty Near Crystal paid $20 for Sunday for the parking lot. That's pretty sweet. You get some free autographs. Yeah, it is. And I will admit, 95% of them say yes. There's only a few, and there was a few this weekend that said no. And when I talked to the agent or the person with them, there were valid reasons. It wasn't just, no, screw the volunteers. It was usually based on a contract with an agency that they're not allowed to do stuff like that, but there is usually something other that they could do, like they could get a selfie or something like that. We do stress to the volunteers, and I will say, you know what, I'll say this now, so if anybody who wants to volunteer or anyone has volunteered, we do this so the volunteers don't rush the tables and ask for 15 million things, because they shouldn't be, but sometimes they do. So Saturday was absolute nuts. Yeah, we got out of there around 8:30, and we got back to the Airbnb, and we picked up some pizzas. That was one of the best benefits of the Airbnb. We were on top of a pizza place, and we had tried the pizza last year, and it was great pizza. So as soon as we were exhausted, I'm like, pizza? Yeah, let's just go get some pizza and go upstairs and eat. It was great. Sunday. Yeah, Sunday was a lot smoother. It was a lot easier. As I said, we did a big meeting at the beginning of the day, and it said, and basically told everybody, thank you very much for everything that you guys did, because it could have been a hell of a lot worse with no volunteers or anyone that really wanted to put in an effort. Paige Soraya from AEW, current WWE Women's Tag Team Champion, showed up. She was nuts. They tried to get her Saturday, Sunday, but because of travel, they could not get her Saturday, Sunday. So she was Sunday only. It was crazy. Crystal says, where was the pizza? No, the pizza was, let me pull it up. It is a chain. Niagara Falls Convention Center. Talk amongst yourselves, folks. Maps. I want to say I told you what it was, Crystal, and you were like, ew, you got that or something. B22, BRAR22 Pizza, Niagara Falls, on the corner of Dunn and Drummond, if that helps. I'm pretty sure it's a chain. I've heard that there's other ones. But yeah, BRAR22 Pizza. It was really good. It was really good pizza. No, not Papa John's. I hate Papa John's. I hate Papa John's pizza. We got one down near here. I'd rather get Geno's or something like that. That's personal. I know some people that absolutely love Papa John's. Yeah, so Sunday. What percentage of guests left early this year on Sunday? So that's a very interesting question. So usually, from over the past few years, I can tell you that most celebrities leave, I would say around 2-3 o'clock, because that's usually they need to go get flights that will go out 6, 7, 8 o'clock. This year, the con didn't end at 6 like it usually does. It ended at 4, which means a lot of the celebrities stayed for a very long time. So I would say about 2, 3, 4 was when they all left. A few had to leave early. So yeah, Paige Soraya, she was just huge. She had the biggest line of the weekend. She was also what we call a talker, which was great. She was great with her fans. She absolutely loved it. I was able to talk with her a little bit at the end, and she was talking about how she was absolutely drained, but she busted her ass. And I'm already a big WWE fan, and I'm a big fan of her and her career. That made me such a bigger fan, because you could tell she was exhausted, and she just kept a smile on her face the entire time. We have in chat, I noticed a lot were gone by 3. Yeah, but it was about 3, because remember, they don't just get in the car and drive. They have to pack everything up. They have to go to the back. They have to make sure all the money and stuff is worked out and all that before they get in the car. And then they have to wait for a car to get them to the airport. So it's not as simple as pack your table up, run. It's a little more than that. So we usually talk about who I met, and I had the opportunity to meet a lot of amazing people this weekend. Let's start with the one that I think was one of the craziest. I have talked about how I have been a giant Mortal Kombat fan since the first game. If you're one of the young kids in the crowd, Mortal Kombat 1, 2, and 3 were what were called digitized sprites. So they would videotape the performers doing their moves on a green screen and then digitize them in the game so the characters looked exactly like the actors. At Niagara Falls Comic Con, they had 3 guests that I had been championing and screaming that they needed to get these people at the Comic Con. More specifically for the greedy side that I wanted to meet them. Ho Sung Pak, Carlos Pesina, and Daniel Pesina. Those are 3 of the 5 people who were all of the main characters in the first Mortal Kombat game. Ho Sung Pak was Liu Kang, Carlos Pesina was Raiden, and Daniel Pesina was Johnny Cage, Scorpion, and Sub-Zero. I want to give a big shout out to a friend of mine, Phil, and I've told this story to a few people at the convention because he needs the praise for this. We had worked at Anime North, and we were talking about this because he was going, and he said he knew I was a big Mortal Kombat fan. He said, "What are you getting signed?" And I said, "I don't really know. I don't know what I'm getting signed because I've got some trilogy stuff and some newer stuff, but I don't have any old school stuff." And he said, "I got something for you." And I'm still blown away that he did this. In his side hustle, he does a lot of video game trading and buying and selling. And out of the goodness of his heart, he gave me a complete in-box Mortal Kombat 1 for the Super Nintendo. And this has everything. This is not just the game in the box. This is the cardboard holder. This is the instruction booklet. This is the registry card. And this has the original poster. And that is what I got signed. It is actually in the other room. Or actually, no, it's in here. I think I put it back in here. Give me 1 second. I did put it back in here. This is a very expensive gift that I am still shocked that I own. And even the 3 guys that signed it were stunned that I had brought it. Oop, that's the instruction book. Because they rarely see this poster because a lot of kids put it up on their wall. So that is 3 of the 5 signs. So we've got Hosung there, we've got Carlos, and we've got Daniel over there, and they actually have certified it on the back with their stamps. And I got a certificate which is numbered, and it shows that this is actual signatures of theirs. So that was incredible to actually meet them, and I'm still stunned that I own a copy of this game, because even back in the day when you could easily get Super Nintendo games and you get them at Toys R Us and Walmart or Sears and all that stuff, this was a hard game to find because it was so popular. So being older and owning a copy is, I still can't believe that I own it. So I've said it to him 100 times. I'll say it here on the podcast. This is incredible, and I thank you very much for that amazing gift, because he could have easily sold that for a really good profit. So I got to meet them, and it was such a fun time meeting them. I walked up, and Daniel Pesina, who plays Johnny Cage, who, if you know me, Johnny Cage cosplay, he said, "Oh, you're here for the nut punch." And I was like, "I love you guys." We talked about Mortal Kombat and how it was such an influential game, and they were absolutely sweet guys. And I really hope to get Carlos, who plays Kano, and Catherine, who plays Sonya. She was supposed to be there, but unfortunately, due to a family thing, she could not make it. So those are the other 2 that I hope get to come up here. Carlos is going to be hard, because what I've heard from Carlos is he does not like flying. So I have to figure out some way to get close to him so I can get that, and that will be all 5 of them done. Also, I got to meet, I got to run into CJ Graham, who played Jason in, I believe, Jason 5. I've met him a ton of times through conventions. He is super fun to talk to. Mr. Brett Wagner, who plays Texas Chainsaw Massacre Leatherface in a couple of the movies. He is so much fun. He remembered me from the past couple times he's done the conventions, and we were chit-chatting about stuff every couple times we walked by. And Mr. Sam Jones, who I love having a conversation with. I have a famous story, famous for me. My first Comic Con that I ever volunteered for, a bunch of the celebrities went to the bar across the street, and I was invited along with some of the volunteers to go over there. And at the end of the night, I was sitting at the hotel bar looking at the TV screen with Larry Thomas, who plays the soup Nazi from Seinfeld, to my right, and Sam Jones, if you don't know who Sam Jones is, Flash Gordon, on my left. And we were watching a football game, and Larry went to bed, and Sam and I talked for a bit, and this was a few years into my relationship with my wife. We weren't married yet, and I was just thinking about starting college. And he sat there and talked with me, talked about, this seems like something you really want to do. It seems like you got a good future ahead of you. He gave me a really good boost of confidence. So anytime I see him at a con now, I always make sure to go up and say thank you, because not that he was the one that told me I should marry my wife, but it was nice to hear someone who could have, of his caliber, that could have easily just been like, you're a fan, like, fair enough. He was really, really sweet to sit there and have a conversation with me. I will always remember that. Alex said we need a shirt for Brett. Yeah, we do need a shirt for Brett. Brett Wagner is there so much, and I love him. I absolutely love him. He's super chill, super nice. He always gets dressed up in the Leatherface thing every once in a while. CJ Graham is a great person to meet. Yeah, I love CJ. CJ is such a cool guy. There's a picture of us. We usually get a group picture doing the volunteering, all the volunteers together, and there's at least 2 where he comes behind and he's standing with us. So I met them. As I said, I met Paige. I talked to her for a little bit at the end. I got to say hi to Mr. David Arquette. I didn't really get to have a long conversation with him, but at least said hi. Told him, big fan of Ready to Rumble. I'm trying to think who else. Yeah, I think that was it. The only other one, and this one meant a ton to me, based on a bunch of different factors, which I'm not going to go into all the details here. I am a huge wrestling fan, but more importantly, I'm a big DDP fan. And this is not here because of this part of the podcast. This is here because this is always here. I was a big fan of his when I first started watching wrestling, and he was in WCW with going up against the NWO. I'm also a big fan of DDP Yoga. I've had a bad back and a bad neck for many, many years. That is the only thing that seems to work. And I'm also a big fan of him as a person because he's a very positive person. He always looks for the good in people. And for a very long time in my life, I was very negative. That's part of, again, I'm not going to go into too much detail, but that is part of what I say when I do the sponsor with my wife. She has made me a better person. So I'd met DDP before. He did a yoga retreat here, but I didn't really get a lot of time to talk with him because he was so busy. So getting to meet him and having a real conversation with him was really nice. We talked about positivity. We talked about, he's going through something right now. I guess they updated the DDP Yoga app, and there is some bugs, and I guess a lot of people were giving him a lot of grief, and a lot of his team a lot of grief for the bugs that were happening, and he's trying to stay positive himself. And I'm not going to go into the details of the conversation because it is really something private that we had, but he said something to me that it really hit me, like, kind of one of those, you remember in Ratatouille where the critic eats the ratatouille and the walls just kind of flow by and they kind of have that like time stops moment? I had one of those with him when he said something to me specifically, and it really changed my outlook on a bunch of different things. And I will admit I was close to tears when he said it, because I needed to hear it at the time. And it meant a ton to me that he could tell I wasn't trying to lead him into an answer, but I think he knew that I needed to hear it. So when he said it, it really meant a lot. So, yeah, that was a moment that will definitely stick with me, and that I got to have that time with him and kind of, yeah, I'm getting a little misty-eyed thinking about it. But anyways, yeah, that was an amazing interaction. And that was kind of it. That really was kind of it. We didn't really get to. I was still so busy running around talking to everybody and trying to get the volunteers, made sure they were taken care of. Boobs to Joe, the guests are so cool at NFCC. They are almost all of them have been amazing. Alex, the Aliens group. Yes, the Aliens group was so fun. They looked like they were having a blast all weekend. Glad you had that moment with DDP. Yep. Yep. I still hate how WWE used DDP, says Justin Smith. Yeah, I know. I got to go. Here's the thing, though. I don't like what they did, but I went to WrestleMania 18 and I got to see DDP win the European Championship. So if things were changed, I might not get that moment. But yeah, then we kind of just hung out and everything started to cool down, and that was kind of it. We hung out a little bit after the con closed. We hung out just kind of yakking and talking to some people, and then I hopped in the car and headed home. When it comes to my rating, what do I think of Niagara Falls Comic Con? This is usually the hardest one. To do because while I like Niagara Falls Comic Con, it is very centered around the celebrities. So it can be hit and miss. Like I think someone said, oh no, that was just about Friday. But some people, if you don't like the celebrities, it's not your con. You're not really interested because other than that, there's panels, but those are all focused around the celebrities. And then there's vendors and that's about it. So if you're not into any of the celebrities, Niagara Falls might not be for you. There's definitely been high weekends where it's been a lot of people I'm interested in. There's times when there's not. For myself, I would say this was like a 7 because I got to meet DDP. Oh, I also got to say hi to the Dudley Boys, which was cool. I got to say hi to Soraya and Paige. I was happy with a lot of the celebrities, but again, if you're not into it, it might not be a 7 for you. But yeah, that was Niagara Falls Comic Con. I know we've gone a little long. Thank you all for tuning in. I don't think there's really much else I can talk about. Stephen Jones jumps in at the last second. Pretty near Crystal, you also met the best small Ghostbuster ever. Yes, Crystal was there over the weekend on the Sunday with her little boy, and he was walking around as a tiny little Ghostbuster, and he was doing an amazing job. He had I saw a picture later. He had drawn an amazing drawing of Darth Vader that was given to the actor who played Darth Vader. Yeah, I think that's kind of it for Niagara Falls Comic Con. Again, if you like the celebrity list, you're going to enjoy Niagara Falls Comic Con. If you don't like the celebrity list, you're probably not going to really enjoy it because other than that, there's not a lot to do besides go to the vendors and maybe talk to the cosplayers if you see them. Gotta rewatch Brother work, Oh, I know, and you're working like crazy. If you like this and you like me talking about Comic Cons and stuff, hit that like button, hit that share button, hit that subscribe button. Let me know your comments, what you thought of Niagara Falls Comic Con. If you liked it, if you didn't enjoy it, leave it in the comments after the video is posted. Next episode is next week. We're going to be talking about music because we haven't done a music episode in a while. We've done a lot of cosplay. We've done a lot of conventions. We now got a bit of a break until Fan Expo in August. So we're going to not change things up. We're going to go nerdy about music. I am a big rock and roll fan. I'm a big metal fan. So next week, we're going to shift gears a bit and go towards that. We are going to talk about guitar players. I'm going to go through my top 10 guitar players of all time. I could probably do a top 20, but I think that'll get a little long. So yeah, top 10 guitar players next week. I would love to play music of each one of them, but we can't because I'll get kicked off the platform. But yeah, I think that's it. Justin Smith said NFCC has a tendency to not update people. If someone cancels, I've lost count of how many times I've shown up and person has canceled with no update. Usually they announce it. I don't know about all the details, though. Nickel City. I'm not doing Nickel City. Nope, I am not doing Nickel City. I haven't done Nickel City in a couple years. But yeah, that's about it. Again, if you guys are still here, you hit that like button, hit that share button, hit that subscribe button. All the people here on TikTok, if you enjoy this thing, we do this every Monday night here at 7 o'clock. Hit that follow button. You can tune in next week. If you're a cosplayer, if you're into cosplay stuff, make sure to check out my channel. We got a lot of videos coming up. I have some cosplay breakdowns coming up. I'm going to be filming some more prop breakdowns. If you're a wrestling fan, on TikTok, you can hop over to Myers Corp Wrestling. We do daily talking about things that happened over the years in wrestling. On the weekends, we're going to now do a new series every Saturday at noon, and that is me talking about meeting a WWE superstar. I've met so many over the years and have some really fun stories. We're going to be starting this weekend. This Saturday, I'm going to be talking about the time I met Stone Cold Steve Austin for the first time, the only time, and that fun story. So if you're a wrestling fan, you like that stuff, go onto TikTok and follow Myers Corp Wrestling for your daily wrestling fix as well as those fun stories. And that's, I think, about it. Also, if you're a cosplayer, make sure to follow me on Instagram because I got a whole bunch of cosplay stuff coming up as well. I'm going to let you guys get out of here. Have yourselves a great night. I love you all, and I appreciate you tuning in. We will see you all very, very soon. Take care. Love you all. See ya.